Hey guys, as promised, I'm back to do the spoiler-filled review of The Conjuring 2. If you are looking for a spoiler-free review, I will put the link somewhere around here so that you can click on that if that's the one that you want to watch. But for other people who have already seen the movie, this is going to be the spoiler-filled review. The movie starts out in the Amityville house with Ed and Lorraine assisting in a seance. We get the backstory of Amityville in order to explain why we're skipping over that and going right to the Enfield poltergeist. The thing about the case in general, aside from the movie, that I couldn't understand was how the son, could go through the house and kill everyone with a shotgun while they're asleep. I could see the first two people, possibly, his parents, but then everyone else, wouldn't they hear the shotgun blast? And I'm finding out that that's part of what makes that case even more paranormal. They felt like there was some type of outside influences that caused people to stay asleep even during a shotgun blast, but that's besides the point. From there, the movie goes to the family in England, where there's a single mother with 2 daughters and 2 sons, and she's quite poor. One thing that I noticed was when I watched the documentary about the real family, there was 2 daughters and 1 son. I don't know why they added the extra son there. I'm guessing it was to exasperate the situation, to make her seem even more impoverished because there's one more mouth to feed. That's the only reason I can think of why they would add a child. I like how in this movie they were able to curtail that horror trope of things only happening when the father's not home. And they did this by there not being a father at all. It was a single mother and her children. So that was good to not see that trope repeated once again. I also like how when things started happening, the children immediately told their mother. It wasn't I'll wait until the 3rd or 4th incident. When something happened, they immediately told their mother. Now, at first, she didn't believe, but when she saw it for herself, she believed. And the thing about it was this poltergeist had 0 fucks to give. I mean, when the police came, they came to do an incident report, and the chair slid right across the floor. And even in the real incident reports of the police reports, they actually do write that they saw a chair move 3 or 4 feet across the room. I think what I'm going to do is put the link to the documentary that I saw in this review because it's on YouTube and it's a really good documentary. It was done in around maybe 1980, 1981, and it actually interviewed the children when they were still children. I think the girl was maybe a year or 2 older from when these things first started happening, and they even show her doing the voice or the voice coming from her, whichever you believe, because there are some skeptics that believe that the whole thing was a hoax and that the children were putting on the voices themselves, and there's other people who say no, it was not a hoax. Now, the camera work and the editing were really good. As always, James Wan is very good with whichever cinematographer he's working with, and I want to give the cinematographer just as much credit for being able to execute these things, but he really was able to put that feel of a 1970s film into this movie. There were some parts of the movie that really reminded me of The Shining, how it was shot. There's a part with the nun in the hallway, and it really reminded me of the part of Shining when Danny's riding his big wheel and he comes around the corner and sees the twins. The nun kind of gave me that same feeling. There's other parts of the movie that are clearly, an ode to The Exorcist. Also, there was a news sequence that they showed where it was done, in the 1970s style as well. And they even did these awkward jump cuts that you would see sometimes in older TV shows, or not really TV shows, in older documentaries more or less. There were some elements that were repeated from the first movie, like the little girl seeing something late at night and she's the only one seeing it and her sister's not seeing it. That was used in the first Conjuring. The creepy toy, that was also used in the first Conjuring. The family ending up sleeping together in the living room. Of course, in this movie, they went to their neighbor's living room. They got right out of that house right away. So they were sleeping together in the living room of their neighbor, and that was similar to how the family was sleeping in the Conjuring 1. Now, I mentioned how many things harken back to older movies. I mentioned The Exorcist. There is a particular scene where they are interviewing a little girl and she goes into her disembodied voice of the old man, and the mother starts to gesture and also respond almost identically to a scene from The Exorcist where the mother was responding to Reagan doing a similar thing. To me, it was like a nice little Easter egg. There's also the fact that the little girl was playing with the Ouija board by herself, which Reagan also did, talking to Captain Howdy in The Exorcist. The thing that I forgive James Wan about is when he does take elements from older movies like Poltergeist, like The Exorcist, like maybe Amityville, I'm not so sure. It's forgivable because the way he does it is in a more loving way. It's not in a hack, I'm ripping this off way. It's in a, this inspired me and this is the way I would do it now that I'm able able to do it myself kind of way. Even with jump scares, a lot of movies people complain about there being jump scares. In James Wan movies, I don't mind the jump scares because the way he executes them are perfect. There are times where you are expecting something to happen, and you're waiting for it, and you're waiting for it, and you're waiting for it. Nothing. Then right when you start to relax and say, oh, well, that jump scare didn't come, boom, there it is. And his timing is perfect. The scene with the nun in the portrait at the house, that was some creepy mess. Like when Lorraine was in that office, and just the portrait itself was creepy, and it stuck with me so much that when I went to bed, I couldn't stop thinking about the nun. So I actually got up and I made my own portrait of the nun. And I happened to notice while I was drawing the portrait how much the nun's face kind of reminds me of that flash of Pazuzu's face in The Exorcist. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. Hopefully, if I can find the scene or I can find still shots, I'll insert them in here somewhere. But it reminded me of Pazuzu's face when I was drawing it. That's when I noticed. There was another shot that I forgot to mention that was very Stanley Kubrick-esque, and that was the shot of Janet looking through the window with her turtleneck on, and it really reminded me of that scene in The Shining where Jack Torrance is looking through the window with his turtleneck on. It's almost lined up the same, and I would like to think that that's James Wan dropping another Easter egg in our direction. Now, I hear that because of the popularity of The Nun, or how much she freaked everyone out, they've already gone ahead and greenlit a spin-off that may be titled The Nun, which in theory sounds good, but the same thing sounded good when we heard that there was going to be a spin-off from The Conjuring of Annabelle. It might have been good if James Wan had directed Annabelle himself, but Annabelle didn't come out so good. Also the writing, there was some writing that was a little bit hokey. To me, the only scary scene in Annabelle was when the mother went to the basement to throw out the trash, and we got a glimpse of that kind of demon creature thing that was following her around, and how she's in the elevator trying to close the doors and the doors won't close. To me, that was the only really creepy scene. The rest of the movie, oh wait, no, there was a second creepy scene when the mother was sewing and kept on waiting for her to stick that needle through her finger, because that's the direction that I felt like it was going, but it never did. I don't think it ever did pierce her finger. Speaking of the nun, I actually thought that Joseph Bishara played her because she had a little bit of a masculine look to her, and he had also played the Bathsheba witch in The Conjuring. He played the lipstick-faced demon in Insidious, which originally I kind of thought that was him playing the hag with the black dress and the veil on, but that was another gentleman. He actually played the lipstick demon, and he played the demon in the basement in Annabelle as well. Also, in the credits, it has him named as the demon. Incidentally, Joseph Bishara also composed the score for this movie, as well as, I'm going to look on my phone so I can get them all right, The Other Side of the Door, The Vatican Tapes, Insidious 1, 2, and 3, Grace the Possession, Dark Skies, and there's a whole bunch of other movies that he composed the score for. Now, when I went to check IMDb to see who played the nun, it has Bonnie Aarons credited with playing the nun. So then I started to think, well, did Bishara play Bill Wilkins? And no, Bill Wilkins was played by Bob Adrian. So I'm thinking, what demon did Bishara play? Turns out originally there was a demon that had horns and looked like a demon. However, they went back and did a reshoot and they replaced the demon with the nun. So he's in the movie, but he's not in the movie. Speaking of casting, a lot of people thought that the Crooked Man was CGI. He's not CGI. He is a Spanish actor named Javier, is it Javier? Yeah, Javier Botet. And he played a lot of different characters that people keep thinking that is CGI. He played Mama. That was really him. He played La Niña Medeiros in Wreck, you know, the scary ass chick that came down from the attic and scared the crap out of me. And he also played all three ghosts in Crimson Peak. And just recently, he played the four-armed creature Mirtu in The Other Side of the Door. That was him also. I thought that maybe they used CGI to make his movements more nightmarish, but no, that's all Botet. He can move that way himself. There's actually video of him doing maybe a screen test, I'm assuming, with him moving in that odd, jerky way. It's almost like watching a breakdancer pop and lock. Botet is 6'7" and he weighs just over 100 pounds. He actually has Marfan syndrome, which makes him extremely thin, and also his limbs and fingers are elongated, so it makes him ideal for playing these types of roles. I actually liked The Crooked Man. A lot of people kind of crapped on it, but I liked The Crooked Man idea. I wouldn't mind seeing a Crooked Man movie, kind of similar to The Babadook, because I like The Babadook, and I feel like there should be a little bit more. There's still room for more movies like that. At least at least I was gonna say at least it's original until too many people start copying it, and then it won't be original anymore. I also hope that Botet gets to play the Slender Man. Now, there's been several Slender Man movies, and I believe there's 2 more coming out in 2016, I think 2017. I really want to see Botet play the Slender Man. This movie was still very fun to watch a second time, especially since I saw it in English this time, so I can understand everything that was going on. As I said before, the first time I watched it in Tamil, so I didn't get any of the dialogue. I can see this becoming one of those type of movies that you have to watch every Halloween, and I actually had 5 oh shit moments in the movie. Oh shit number 1 was the old man popping up by the television. If you saw the movie, you know what I'm talking about. Oh shit number 2 was that painting of the nun. Oh shit number 3 was the dog transforming into Crooked Man. Oh shit number 4 was the crucifix scene with crucifixes spinning upside down in a room, and then there's a jump scare, which they show in the trailer, but it still got me because of that timing I talked about that James Wan has, where it's you're waiting for it, you're expecting it to happen right here, it doesn't happen, so you calm down, boom, it happens. That's why it still worked, even though I knew it was coming. And the 5th oh shit is the Marilyn Manson nun at the end of the hallway. That was extremely creepy to me. Originally, I gave this movie a scare score of 3, but I'm actually revising it to a scare score of 4, because even though I wasn't extremely terrified during watching the movie, when I went to bed that night, I couldn't stop thinking about that nun. I mean, I'm trying to close my eyes, trying to go to sleep, and I'm still thinking about that nun. Like I said, I thought about that nun so much, I got up the next day and drew a picture of her just to I felt like it would be a cathartic thing that if I draw it out, then I'm not going to think about her anymore. So my scare score now is 4. Gore score, there's none. There's no gore in this movie. And my fun factor is also 4, because this is a really good movie. I mean, there's very few sequels that I can say are as good as the original movie. When I try to think off the top of my head of any sequels that I saw where the part 2 was either as good as or surpasses the first movie, I can only think of Human Centipede 2. I felt like that one was actually better than the first Human Centipede. Some people would say Back to the Future 2 and Back to the Future 3. I'm not huge into the Back to the Future movies, so they're all kind of mad to me. People say Raiders of the Lost Ark and the Temple of Doom was better than the original Raiders of the Lost Ark. I think that Conan the Destroyer was better than Conan the Barbarian. I'm trying to think of any other ones. Aliens. Aliens was just as good as Alien. I wouldn't say it was better, but it was just as good as Alien. But other than that, I can't think of any other sequels that were as good as the original or better than the original. If you can think some, put them down there. Like, what movies do you actually think that the sequel was as good as or better than? Just write them down there. This is the part of the video where I'm supposed to beg for thumbs up and subscribers, but I don't beg because I'm not from Begonia. I never know how to end these videos, and it feels very awkward, so I decided to come up with something that I can say at the end of each video, so hopefully it won't be that awkward. Here goes. Let me know what you think. Just because I liked a movie doesn't mean that you won't hate it. And just because I hated a movie doesn't mean you won't like it. I suggest you watch it for yourself and let me know what you think.